What if the secret to time freedom in business is not better time management, but higher leverage assets that keep working when you're done for the day? Today's guest is one of my favorite people to learn from on that exact topic, and his name is Jerry Potter. Jerry teaches online entrepreneurs how to run their business in half the time by focusing on assets like YouTube channels and podcasts. He is the host of the Done by Lunch Entrepreneurs podcast and has grown a YouTube audience of more than 150,000 subscribers. And he's on a mission to help business owners make more money, work less, and avoid burnout along the way. In this conversation, Jerry shares a moment that changed everything for him, the big mindset shift from time management to return on effort, and why YouTube is one of the most powerful platforms for discovery, authority, and long-term growth. He's also got super practical how to create YouTube content without perfection and why long-form video is still the move and why not having a massive audience can actually be an advantage when you're a business owner. Let's dive in. Struggling to turn website traffic into real sales? You're not alone and you don't have to figure it out all yourself. Welcome to Smarter Online Business, the podcast for course creators, coaches, and e-commerce entrepreneurs who want their websites to convert visitors into buyers without the tech overwhelm. I'm your host, Carrie Saunders, a website strategist and conversion expert with over 20 years of experience. Each episode delivers simple, proven strategies to help you generate more revenue and make your website your smartest sales tool. Welcome back to the show. Today we have a special guest with us, and his name is Jerry Potter. He teaches online business owners how to run their business in half the time so they can make more money, work less, and find success before they burn out. He even teaches entrepreneurs how to create and manage their YouTube channel in less than 90 minutes a week. So welcome to the channel and welcome to our show, Jerry. So excited to have you here.
Yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation.
So I gave a little brief intro into who Jerry Potter is and what's behind you. Can you give us a little bit more details? Anything I missed or anything special you want to tell the audience?
Yeah, well, a lot of what I do is driven by something. I started my business in January of 2020, and then obviously the whole world changed 2 months later. But a lot of what I do is driven by something that happened that year when all of a sudden kids were home, and my son at the time said, "Dad works all the time," and it broke my heart because if he knew me before he was born, I loved what I did. I used to work as a radio personality. I'd work 70, 80 hours a week and I loved it. Nothing wrong with it. But when the kids came along, it's like, okay, time to, do things differently. And so I would often work, less than 40 hours a week. And I'm like, he has no idea. But he went from not seeing me work ever, right? Because I was away at work and he was at school, to all of a sudden, Dad works all the time. So I got the observation. And so since then, I've always thought about how entrepreneurs can have more time freedom, have the ability to, work more if you want. If you love what you do, that's great, but also not feel like, oh my gosh, where's my next lead coming from? I got to get this thing done. I got to get that thing done, living in their email inbox all day. And so that's where the beginning of this whole idea of being a done by lunch entrepreneur came from. And so for you, it could be running your business in half the time, or it could be running your business in 60 hours a week. But the bigger thing is figuring out how you can, scale without having to work more hours or having to hire a team. And so shout out to my then, I think he was 9 at the time when he said it. And now, obviously, I work from home now, and he's home sometimes, and he knows that I work. And I think that's good for kids, but it really is about, helping people do things in a better way. And it's not time management. Like, time management can save you minutes. These kind of things can save you hours and hours.
I can actually relate to that a lot because those that have listened to podcasts for a while might know this, but I started the business in 2002 and I had a 9-month-old, and then shortly thereafter had another child, and then we waited a little bit longer and had a third child. So I ran this business pretty much the whole time from, a child who's 9 months old, who's now 24, which is kind of wild to think about that he's 24 now and the business is going to be 24 later this year. So yeah, I can totally relate to having to juggle having a young child around and, oh, mommy, you're working all the time. And in your case, hey, dad, you're working all the time. I can relate to the goals of wanting to be more efficient with your time and making sure you're not encroaching on your family time too much.
Yeah. Well, and if you are a parent, it doesn't matter if you're really working all the time or not. It's all about their perception. And that was his,
Right.
that was his perception. And so, and when I started my YouTube channel, I was working full time at an agency. I had the two kids. My wife worked evenings, so I was doing school pickup from both schools and dinner and cleanup and bath time. And everybody was like, "Oh yeah, I spend 19 hours editing every one of my YouTube videos." And I was like, "Okay, well, I can't do that." So from the beginning, it was like you said, I'm not going to give up a bunch of valuable family time, especially when the kids are young. So I had to figure out a way to do it more efficiently. And turns out I was figuring out how to solve a problem that a lot of people have. So it's worked out well.
Well, and speaking of that, I do know that you help teach entrepreneurs how to create and manage their YouTube channel really in 90 minutes a week or less. Can we touch on how do you do that? How do you take something that feels like it should be hours and hours, maybe even a whole day or a day and a half worth of time just to produce one YouTube video or, do the things you need to do? How do you pull that back for entrepreneurs so they can really make this more feasible and tangible to fit into their busy entrepreneur life?
Yeah, if anyone's not skeptical about the 90 minutes a week, that's not normal. If you are skeptical, it's very, very normal. And there's a couple of things that happen. And when I put this together and figured out how to do this so that I could help other entrepreneurs do it, it was because I kept seeing entrepreneurs that I was like, "You'd be so good on YouTube." And they're like, "Oh, next month, next year, when I have time." And so I kept saying, "Well, what if you had 3 hours a week? What if you had 2 hours a week?" And when I said 90 minutes, like all of a sudden people were like, "Yeah, tell me more." And so there's a couple of principles here. One of them, I'm going to be completely transparent. You have to let go of perfectionism. My father-in-law is a structural engineer for Boeing, the airplane manufacturer, and we want him to get things right at his job, right? Let's keep the planes functioning. Let's keep the planes in the sky. Let's keep everybody alive. That is a place for perfection. YouTube is not a place for perfection. I mean, first of all, if you think about the idiot things people do on YouTube, but more than that, I know as business owners, we want to come across as professional, but it doesn't have this layer anymore of, oh, I've got to have perfect lighting, perfect sound, a set in the background, like all of that. Now, you may want to build that stuff, but you can come across as professional with much less than that. I started my channel standing in my living room. I'd clean up the kids' toys in front of a window for light. I had a $15 microphone that plugged into my iPhone, and that was it. And I was able to make great videos, and I did my first 25 videos that way. After that, I was like, oh, maybe I'll get some more equipment, so I don't have to wait for a cloudy day when it's overcast, and I don't have to film in the living room and things like that. So we have to let go of the perfectionism. But the second part, and I think this is the most important part, is I talk a lot about ROE, or return on effort, and for all of us in all of our business, ROE is everything. We shouldn't be putting time into things that don't pay us back in a big, big way. And so with YouTube, we focus on only the most important things that have that highest return on effort. If you go in and you say, okay, I'm going to have shorts, I'm going to have long form, I'm going to have a podcast, I'm going to have a membership, I'm going to have a live stream, I'm going to have a community post, you're never going to be able to do this in 20 hours a week, let alone 90 minutes a week.
Well, and I feel like that brings up a really good point of us really needing to look at our business and what does bring that good return on effort. And speaking of which, those that might be YouTube curious, they might be like, well, why would somebody want to listen to me on YouTube? What's in it for the entrepreneur? Why would this help my business? So let's talk a little bit about how YouTube can really help our business grow, and especially even grow when we're sleeping, which is one of the things you like to help people with is, have it work while you're not working, right? So how can
Yes.
YouTube really do that for our entrepreneurs that are listening?
So there's a few things that are unique to YouTube compared to other platforms. Okay. One is discovery is unbelievable on YouTube. And I mean, that means new people can find you. So one of the things that's been going on the last few years since ChatGPT came out is blog traffic has been plummeting, right? People are getting their answers from AI. They don't visit your website anymore. But meanwhile, YouTube is having two things happen. One, it's where people go when they can't get an answer from ChatGPT. And two, it is the number one cited social source. This actually just happened recently. The number one cited social source on LLMs, on ChatGPT and Gemini and all of the platforms. It used to be Reddit, and then YouTube just slowly creeped up. So I'm getting thousands of views a month from ChatGPT. So that's one thing, just as a platform that makes it an incredible place to be. If we compare that to like say an audio podcast can be great for building and nurturing and stuff like that, but it's really hard to get new people to find a podcast with if it's not on YouTube and set up the right way. So that's one thing. The second thing, when we think about other ways that we could spend our time, is when we compare YouTube to Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and LinkedIn. Let's say we're going to make videos there. It's really important to understand that, well, most people already know this. You publish a video on Facebook. Let's say you put up a reel and maybe it gets some views for 48 hours, maybe 4 or 5 days if you're lucky, and then it kind of goes and dies. But with YouTube, all the videos that you publish, and you have to build some momentum first, but when you publish a video, it gets views. But then at the same time, your older videos keep getting views. And so just to put this into perspective, my first year on YouTube, which is a partial year, about 4.5 months, I got 1,150 views. My second year, which was a full year, I got 300,000 views. My third year, I got 1.2 million. And my fourth year, I got 2 million views. So what happens again is your older videos keep getting watched. I have a video that I put out in 2017. It got 16 views in its first month, and it's now getting 400 or 500 views a month, and it's approaching 100,000 views. So it's just a totally different kind of investment than the other platforms. And then the last thing too, it grows your authority in a way that other platforms just don't, for two reasons. One, because people spend more time with you, right? Like, Carrie, when you got on a call with a client, I assume you're like, hey, nice to meet you. And they're like, yeah, take my money, right? They want to get to know you. They want to like you. They want to trust you. And with YouTube, somebody could find one of your videos, watch another one and watch another one all in one sitting. And all of a sudden they've spent, 25 to 30 minutes with you before you even heard of them. And those people do go and buy something right away, or they go get on a call and they're like, yeah, I just need help choosing which package I want. I'm going to work with you now, or I just need to know which product I want. So it's so different. I had, by the time I had been on YouTube for 2 months, I had 28 subscribers, handful of views, and I'd been booked for 2 speaking gigs, paid speaking gigs, because people saw me on YouTube. And it's just something about the platform and people seeing that you know what you're talking about. It's not about having 50,000 subscribers or anything like that.
Well, and I think that's a really good point too, is that you didn't have that many subscribers, but yet you got these speaking gigs from, the videos you did already have up there.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it was like, oh, this guy knows how to communicate. He knows what he's talking about. He'd probably be a good fit for my organization. Believe me, I was as stunned as anybody.
Well, and they get to know you some, they get to, see your personality, how you present and all the things. So I feel like it helps qualify you a lot, just like it can help, entrepreneurs who are trying to get that like, know, and trust factor, like you were talking about. You kind of feel like when you've been watching somebody on YouTube for a while, you feel like you know them. You kind of feel like you've had coffee with them, or went on a chat walk, with them on a bike path or something. You feel like that versus just a stranger from a Facebook or an Instagram post that's put this super polished thing up and then it disappears. You can't find them anymore.
Yeah. And there's a lot of psychology behind it. But if two people are like, if somebody's watching you and I right now on video on YouTube, and if you're listening to the audio podcast, I'll describe it. But if they're watching us, it looks like we're sitting less than 3 feet away from them. And somebody that is allowed within a 3 foot like radius of us, we consider them a close friend. And so if I walked up to a stranger and walked within 3 feet, they're going to turn around and be like, "Oh, hi. What do you need?" Right? It's startling. Even if an acquaintance does it, like somebody you kind of know, they come within 3 feet. You're like, "Oh, hey, what's up?" And so using video, we get to enter this new level of intimacy with our future customers and clients. Just because we're on video, we're talking right to the camera, we're making eye contact, and it's just one of those things where it builds trust faster than anything else.
And then you mentioned already that, already got these speaking gigs from, not very many subscribers on your channel. And I know a lot of other entrepreneurs I talk to get worried about not having a big audience. So how does not having a big audience on YouTube actually kind of give you an advantage and get you some big sales? Because I know we've talked about this in some of your programs. I've heard you talked about how small audiences actually can be an advantage on YouTube right now.
Well, that's a tall argument for me to back up. Like here's why you want a small audience. But
Well,
I
you
will say,
starting out, yeah.
yeah. So there's two types of people on YouTube, and most people, if they're not on YouTube for their business, they think of the most popular type of YouTuber, which is that influencer creator, right? They're on there and they're making videos, they're trying to get as many views as possible. And then the other side, though, is people like us, a business owner or an entrepreneur. And here's how I define them, and it's very clear. If you make most of your money from selling other people's offers, you're an influencer or a creator, right? So whether it's YouTube running ads on your channel, they share it with you. If it's you having sponsors, it's you promoting affiliate products, different things like that. That's that side. And that side's not very good until you make it really big because you can't monetize any of it until you've got at least a decent sized audience. The other side, our side, the entrepreneur business owner side, is actually pretty great because you can make money from one viewer when they're the right viewer. And so that's what makes a massive difference. I got my first client from YouTube, I think 11 days in. Again, no big social proof, not many views. Cheryl, who I recently worked with, who's a doctor, she had been publishing and I'm not going to lie, nobody's going viral overnight, right? You got to put in the work in the beginning. But she all of a sudden, with one of her early videos without a lot of views, had somebody book a call and sign a year-long contract with her. And so that's the beautiful thing about it, is one viewer who's the right one is going to be very, very profitable for you and your business's future.
Well, and a lot of things that we've talked about too, and like your programs I've been in that have stuck with me is that people on YouTube to solve a problem and are on the cusp of wanting help. And
Yeah.
that's what can help us as entrepreneurs, especially if our videos are curated correctly, that they are kind of answering that call or that question as to, that help that they need. Could you talk a little bit more about that? Because I know I don't do it quite as gracefully as you do.
No, no, what you said was totally fine. So, one thing to know before I answer that question is because we haven't mentioned this yet, when we talk about doing YouTube as a business owner, as an entrepreneur, and getting that ROE, that return on effort, we don't waste time on shorts. We don't waste time on live streams. We don't waste time on having a membership on YouTube. Like there's so many features, and they add more all the time. But and if you've got 30 hours a week for YouTube, then go for it. But if you're limited on time, as most business owners are, we want to focus on long form videos. The original YouTube video landscape, 5 to 8 minutes is a great length if you're getting started. They could certainly be longer if you have more valuable content to share. And so in those, as you mentioned, Carrie, we have the opportunity to reach people who are looking to solve their problem, which translates to looking to invest money in solving their problem, right? If they're at that time. Sometimes it's a quick problem, right? Not everybody goes on YouTube going, all right, I've got to spend money to solve this problem. But you can help them sometimes solve a small problem that then they go and hire you or buy from you to solve a bigger problem. So that's the beauty of it. People go to YouTube to find solutions. And if you make videos about the right topics that are the questions people are asking before they're ready to buy, like shortly before they buy, then in that case, they're much more warmed up. We talked about YouTube builds trust and likely to become a client or customer.
So then I know that, there may be some entrepreneurs and business owners now listening who we piqued their interest. They're interested on potentially getting on YouTube and using it as their high leverage asset, which is not actually a term we've used yet. So you might want to talk to that. But what do you find holds business owners back from success or from even getting started on YouTube?
Well, one is just a complete misconception of what's required because we all just assume that, oh, well, I have to have a video editor, I have to have a fancy camera, I have to have a studio, like all of these things. And there's a woman I talk about a lot, Maggie, who's a coach, and she grew to 200,000 subscribers making videos of her just walking in the park. Like in some of them, it looks like it's raining. She's clearly not, she's holding up her phone and that's it. So part of it is understanding and accepting that, you don't need to be perfect. And then the second part that holds them back is just, yeah, a little bit more of that perfectionism where they think, oh, I'm not going to look professional. I'm not going to, you know, I only, or they start, I've only got 17 views. That looks bad for my business. But I had somebody say to me, I was in a mastermind group a few years ago and I was thinking about launching something new and I was really nervous about it. Imposter syndrome was creeping in. And she said, do people need this? And I said, yeah. And she said, okay, well, don't let your insecurities get in the way of helping the people who need it. And it was just this like moment of like, oh my gosh, that is like, I'm so selfish, you know, from that standpoint. Not that we don't take our own needs into account, but so I think that sometimes it's the tech, but the tech is usually simpler than people want. And I'll tell you the biggest mistake that business owners make though, is they make too ambitious of a plan from the beginning. So they might say, I'm going to publish or two videos a week, plus 5 shorts, plus I'm going to do this and this. And since I'm making them anyway, I'm going to use AI and repurpose it for a LinkedIn newsletter and then also my email list. And you know, they burn out in 3 or 4 weeks. So I encourage people to, you got to let go of the perfectionism, realize that you don't need to be perfect. If your video is not good, people won't see it anyway. Sometimes that's a sad but happy truth, right? And so, you know, it really does come down to come up with a plan that you can keep up with and get going. And when it comes down to what to focus on, from a tech standpoint, make sure people can see and hear you. But I can't imagine anyone's listening right now that doesn't have an HD camera on their phone in their pocket, right? So get a cheap microphone and stand in front of a window. That's how I started. And then after that, really put your effort into what you're talking about in your video. Is it going to be valuable? Is it going to be something that people are wondering about, people are thinking about? Don't worry about, oh, I have to script it word for word. Don't like pretend you're a guest on a podcast interview when you record, right? You don't, I didn't script this word for word, clearly. And so, and all your effort should go into what you talk about. Yes, do some editing, take out the silences, take out the mistakes. But other than that, I can't tell you how many times I've watched a video with no production value that's been one of the most valuable things I've ever seen. And that's where people will come back. If people will click on your video, they'll watch your video, and then YouTube will recommend it to more people like them.
And I think if those listening listen to what you just said and think about it while they're watching the videos that they're naturally going to for their help, they're probably going to see some of those elements where it's not perfect, it's not scripted, it's, you know, just giving them really good information. And that's really what's the most important part about a YouTube video, is being valuable and giving the audience the answer to the question that they have in their mind, or the entertainment, depending on what type of video. But as business owners, we're generally educating, not entertaining quite as much. But as long as we're giving them what they came for and what they're asking for, then that helps build the trust factor even more, wouldn't you say?
Yes, but I do want to go back to one thing you said. Another roadblock for a lot of people is they watch YouTube as a consumer, and YouTube is serving what it considers to be the best videos on the planet for you or I or whoever's watching. And so sometimes all we see is high production value and big budgets and things like that, and we feel like we can't get started. And so I think it's important. Now, if your feed doesn't have that, then maybe you're fine. But I think it's just important to emphasize that there are tons of videos that don't have that are doing really well. And actually just recently heard an interview with a guy at YouTube, and he told me, I can tell you actively, they are trying to help smaller channels grow faster. They want new voices. They want new people. They want, you know, what they ultimately want is they want to match the right video with the right person all the time. And what he said, and I was skeptical, but he said, if you go to youtube.com, any logged in user, and you scroll down, like it's not going to be one of the top 3 videos, but if you scroll down, you're going to see a video with maybe only a handful of views and almost no subscribers. And sure enough, I was like, well, that sounds good and all, but let's see. So I went to youtube.com and I scrolled down and, you know, didn't have to go too far. And here was this video that had like, it was 4 days old. It had like 12 views and the channel had like 5 subscribers. but something about it thought YouTube would like that video. I would like that video rather. And so it recommended it to me. And I was like, oh, let's see this again. So I hit refresh and got new videos to come up. And sure enough, little scroll, there was another tiny channel with a video that was 2 days old and only had 15 views. So this is this is happening now. It didn't used to happen. You can grow faster. You can get discovered faster. I'll tell you the biggest thing though is as you get started, help one person with one overall problem. That's what makes YouTube able to match it up. If you go on there and you talk about 10 different things, then YouTube will never be able to help you grow your own channel because it doesn't know who to show it to.
That makes a lot of sense. And I love the points you brought out there, especially as a consumer watching it, because I personally don't watch a whole lot of YouTube videos. So I wouldn't get that experience of the highly refined, highly produced type of videos. And I didn't really think about the fact that many people who consume YouTube all the time might end up just seeing all the polished videos and not, the ones that are a little bit less polished.
Yeah, especially if you're watching stuff from TV networks and, film studios or just, people who are full-time creator influencers who have a team of 50 people, right? That's a very different world. And you don't
Right.
have to do that as a business owner because you are helping somebody solve a problem and they're going to appreciate it.
So for those listening, before we wrap up, I would love to have you give us like your top tips on getting started with YouTube. Obviously, find Jerry Potter on YouTube. And we'll talk about how to find him here in a minute. He's excellent at teaching. But what are some of those top things that you would recommend for getting started?
First thing is, and I've got a resource I can mention in a second that will help people decide if YouTube is going to work well for them or not. Because if you're going to try and do it, and if you're going to try and do it in 90 minutes a week, we can help you assess that. But my motivation to most people is like, look, if you feel like YouTube is right for you, start building it in 90 minutes a week because it's going to take a little time. And so that's why I built this so you could build it as a side hustle. But if somebody wants to get started, the first thing is obviously figuring out who are you talking to. And I want to reemphasize, pick one person. I analyzed a channel for a client this week, and she was doing something that appealed to Airbnb owners, real estate agents, and homeowners. Well, on the back end to YouTube, even though her topic fit all of those, on the back end to YouTube, they don't know who those videos are for. They're like, no matter how smart the algorithm is, you're making it work too hard. And so figure out who's your one person that you're going to help. And then second, help them with one overall problem. So this is a new filter I've been playing with, but basically take your channel and say, I help this type of person move toward this like dream outcome or desire and away from this fear. So it's just a real simple framework. And if your videos don't fit that, then don't you don't have a plan yet. You need to figure that out. So if this woman was, saying, I help real estate agents, Airbnb buyers or Airbnb owners and homeowners, it's too many people. Meanwhile, if you went out and you started you're a cat person, right?
Yes.
Okay. What kind of cat do you have?
Well, we have two orange tabbies in our office, and I've got three more cats at my house.
Okay. So let's say, and I assume they're not twins, but let's say you had, or are they siblings?
They are siblings, actually. Yeah.
Siblings. Okay. So let's say you started a channel for owners of sibling orange tabbies. Like YouTube is going to figure out real quick exactly who your videos are for because it's so specific. But if you started a channel for all cat owners about 5 different breeds or something like that, that's where it's going to get confused. So first, just get very clear on what you're doing. Second, let go of, again, some of that perfectionism and start, in my program, we teach you how to do research to figure out what your first videos should be. But, start making some videos and get if they're going to be bad at first, get the bad ones out of the way, but the biggest thing, and I mentioned this earlier, don't go in with too ambitious of a plan. Go in with a plan that you can keep up with if you get sick, if you have extra client work, if you have a busy week. Like I said, when I started mine, I built it as a side hustle, and you can do the same thing.
And I think your example on the cats was honestly super on point. I feel like I just loved it. It was so unexpected. And I was like, wow, that really really makes you think about what you're really doing there. Like It
Yeah.
just, I don't know. It just made it so clear to me how to not jumble up too many audience ideas into one channel.
Yeah. And you can, I mean, you can go a little broader, but YouTube's not going to do as good a job. And if that's what you need, that's fine. But you just don't want to go, too far from that. So just really try and narrow it down. Because I can tell you, if you started a new channel, helping somebody use one feature on one piece of software, it's going to find those people real quick, right? And so that's where, yeah, the more narrow you can be, the faster YouTube's going to figure out who your channel is for. And when you do this right, you can be getting views from strangers in your first week or two, views from search, places like that, because YouTube knows, oh, this video is about this. We know people that would like that, and they match them up. And as long as the first people enjoy the video, and in other words, they watch at least some of it, then they're going to recommend it to more people like them.
That's just great. That's super helpful, Jerry. And so I know some will be listening, be like, oh, I need to find out more information about Jerry Potter and how he does his YouTube in 90 minutes a week or less. And for those listening too, I'm actually relaunching my YouTube channel in April. So look for that coming up
Yay.
via the help of Jerry. I've been working with him for over a year now. So what's the best places to find you, Jerry? Obviously YouTube, but let us know some details and we'll definitely put any of the links in the show notes too.
Yeah, if you're thinking about getting started on YouTube as a business owner, like a lot of the advice out there is for creators and influencers, and it backfires on you. So I recommend getting started. You can go to my YouTube in 90 minute system. I call it YT90. So you can go to YT90roadmap.com, and it'll talk about kind of how to do this in 90 minutes a week. But there's also a section that'll help you realize, okay, this could work really well for me, or this will just be another distraction or time suck.
I just love how you just make it so real, Jerry, and just, it may be the best thing for you. It might not be the thing that you need to do. And I love how you don't just push people to being like, oh, you have to do YouTube because that's all the rage right now. I just love how you really get realistic and let people know it might be great for their business or maybe it's just a distraction. So I love how you're super honest there.
I believe that if you don't believe it's going to work, you'll never succeed. And so I think that's why it's an important part, because there are going to be hiccups, right? Your gear is not going to work every time. Your editing software is not going to work every time. You're not going to feel good every time it's time to record a video. And when you believe something's going to work, you go, oh, I'll try again in an hour. The software didn't work, or I'll try again tomorrow. But when you don't believe it's going to work, you throw your hands up. You go, oh, we're so bad. I can never succeed at this. And so that optimism is more powerful than people give it credit for.
That's so very true in all aspects of our business. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, Jerry, for being on our podcast. Always love listening to your videos and talking to you whenever we get a chance to talk. And you're just, a breath of fresh air of being realistic with how we run our business, having fun with our business. And I love your posts on Facebook too, of you hiking up a mountain and just having a good time while you're still running the business and helping other entrepreneurs, be successful.
Well, I've loved getting to know you, and I appreciate your support. And thank you for having me on the show.
So good, right? I love how Jerry makes YouTube feel realistic instead of overwhelming. My biggest takeaway from this conversation is this: you do not need a perfect setup. This is something I struggle with, a giant audience or a complicated content plan. You need a clear person who you're trying to help, a clear problem you help them solve, and a simple plan you can stick with even when life gets busy. If YouTube has been sitting on your someday list, let this be your nudge to start small and start consistent. If you want to check out Jerry's system for doing YouTube in 90 minutes a week as a business owner, he mentioned his YT90 roadmap. We will put the link in the show notes so you can decide if YouTube's actually a fit for you or if it'd be a distraction right now. I love how he keeps that real. And if you want help turning your website into a smarter sales tool that supports your content, builds trust, and converts visitors into leads, come join me in my free Facebook group at smarteronlinebusiness.com/Facebook. And we will see you next week.